everyone. And say hello and goodbye to the people from System Matters Publishing. Thank you very much, Stefan, Rike. It was a lovely hour talking. We are now switching from old school revival and PBTR role-playing games to miniature games with the people working on Chronopia. And as you might have noticed, people in chat, we are switching languages because I think English is the one language that we all share probably because...
Yes, we do.
My German are pretty rusty at the moment, so English is for the best.
Yes, probably. And, I think no one else here speaks Mandarin, that's the one thing I can also throw in the ring. Probably not. Let's stay with English. I think that's the easiest one. Okay. Let me set this up, guys. I'm just going to give you your names so people know who you are. And we're going to talk about what you do, which is working on a game called Chronopia.
Chronopia. It's got a lot of pronunciations. It depends on the language.
Okay. And it is a game that already existed once, and this is kind of a remake or a second edition that we're talking about, right?
No, it's, first of all, hello everyone. Guten Abend, Freunden. I'm Ilias Papadopoulos, calling from Greece. I told you I have kind of a rusty German, but that's the most I can get to. So,
this is pretty good.
Oh, Dankeschön. So this is the revamp of an old game that used to be around in the 90s. It used to be published by a Swedish company called Target Games, and it was around from 97 until 2001. It was based in an older RPG game called Drakarok Demoner that was also published by a Swedish
Target,
company.
yes. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was a complete and a very successful one range of miniatures, complete with lore, a very rich lore that was around for 5 years, give or take. Unfortunately, for other issues that the company ran around, the game stopped being published at 2005. The last miniature, I think, was published at 2005. And now here we are trying to revamp the game to allow the audience to visit the great world of Chronopia, which in my opinion is one of the richest worlds in fantasy lore around. So what I want to try to present to all you is, first of all, the story, if you will allow me.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Tell us about the world and the story.
In the world of Chronopia are 4 mortal races and one that has a bit of a twitch. So we will talk about it last. First of all is the Firstborn. The Firstborn are, give or take, the baseline humans. They are knights. They are led by an illustrious being called the One King. He's the best king around, clad in golden armor. They have the classic tropes of armor, big shoulder pads, knightly orders, you name it. Everything around classic fantasy literature, it's in the Firstborn. Also, they are, by definition, they are the main pivotal characters of the whole lore. Then we have the Black Bloods. The Black Bloods are a conglomeration of races. They consist of 4 races. The first one, it's the Orcs. The Orcs are the biggest population in the empire, of the unified empire of the Black Bloods. They are the biggest population, but unfortunately they are subdued by the ogres. Secondly, it's the goblins. The goblins are short, they are considered inferior by the rest of the empire, they are considered insignificant. That's why they have the feeling of neglect and they are trying to break away from the empire. Maybe there is a twitch in that goblin theme that we will visit again in the future, of maybe a revolution or a breakaway faction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then own goblin homeland.
Yep. Make the goblin land free. Yeah. Then we have the trolls. The trolls are, by appearance, they are very savage, they're very large, they have 4 arms, 2 main arms and 2 ones coming from their back. But despite their appearances, they are quite friendly. Of course, no. If I saw a troll in the street, I would not ask the time around.
Okay. He doesn't look very friendly, but he's...
Yep.
He's got really firm buttocks to turn the miniature around.
Exactly. The final race in the Black Blood Empire is the ogres. The ogres are the royalty, the chieftains. They are very large, around 2.5 meters tall. They're very muscular. They're very savage, and they have subdued all the other population of the empire. And now they are the emperor comes from their ranks. All the royalty comes from their ranks. With one small exception, the orcs are the scientists. They are the guys that hold the mysteries of alchemy in their hands. So also this is another trope. They are, diplomats. The orcs are the diplomats and the guys that are sent around to speak on behalf of the emperor, of the ogre emperor. Moving past the black... Yeah,
I like that the orcs are the smooth ones and the scientists. And that's a nice turnaround on the show.
Exactly, because we have grown accustomed of savage orcs and no, here they're not so much. They are more like diplomatic, more like smooth flowing orcs around. Yeah. Then moving away from the Black Blood Empire, we have the elves. The elves used to be the main antagonists of the Firstborn. Mm-hmm. They are divided into 3 main large houses. The first of them is the Crystal Lotus that pivots around the theme of ice. They are icy elves. The other is the theme of Helios. Helios is the sun. They are the more martial elves. And finally, we have the Obsidian Serpent elves, which are more like with an evil twitch on them. The elves are not like Tolkien elves. They, in appearances, maybe they look like them, but they're more arrogant, they are more scheming, and I would not really characterize them as nice people. They're always trying to hit you in the back. So if you meet an elf in the street, try to have your guard up, because something is going on around that. Moving away from the elves, it's the dwarves. The dwarves is the last of the mortal races. The dwarves live in a vast cavernous system called the labyrinth. They live underground. They really mind about the business of the upper world. And they are smiths, they are miners, they mainly look at their business, but when somebody tries to mess with them, they take it to the surface and try to fight back. Also, the dwarves have one small detail that sets them apart from the rest. They have totems. Totems are their gods made manifest in flesh and blood, walking with them in their caverns, in their great labyrinth that lives right below our boots. Finally, moving past the mortal races, we have the devout. The devout is something that people would have to study, to read more about that in the lore, but let's call them a breakaway faction from the Firstborn. Initially, they were Firstborn, humans like us. They turned their back to the One King, and they pledged themselves to the Dark Lord, to the bad guy of the whole setting. So the bad guy, the Dark Lord, the Dark One, started giving them powers to call forth the Warp Realms. The Warp Realms is practically the hell.
Okay.
So, yeah, they have some magicians with the ability to call forth warp powers and demons. So they started evolving from base bad humans to a mix of human and demon.
So we're talking horns and fangs and claws, things like that.
All the classic ones. In the future, we will start having, because there are 4 different factions in the Devout, each faction will evolve into something kind of different. Also, they have evolved the art of necromancy. They have the ability to raise the dead, so their legion is practically endless.
That's handy, recycling.
What could possibly stop them? Maybe we will see also that in a future expansion. Who knows? This finishes the lore part. Before I continue to the other parts of my short presentation, I want to state something. When we started working on this project, we wanted to remain as true as possible to the old spirit of the lore and the rules, but at the same time, we wanted to make everything new. We did not want to present to the wider public something that was stale and worn and outdated. So this was quite a challenge for us. We had to keep the same artwork and make new artwork at the same time. We had to keep the same aesthetics in the miniatures and make new miniatures at the same time. So even to all of you, I have to state that we took every measure in order to ensure that the lore and the aesthetic remained true, but we brought all that 30 years in the future. So regarding the art, this brings me to the art part. The art part will be comprised of the old Adrian Smith artwork. It's completely iconic. I really urge you to just go and check the old artwork. In my opinion, is great. But at the same time, we're bringing the whole artwork part to the 21st century. At the moment, actually, a great cover art piece is made by a great artist named Ben Meyer. Actually, a couple of minutes ago, he was here on Twitch preparing the
cover.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Ben also wrote me and said, hi, greetings from him, and that he will work on the cover artwork tomorrow again. So if you want to join and watch what Ben does, you can go into his Twitch. He says tomorrow at 1 p.m. and we're working on the cover. Yes, he does amazing work. I mean, he works for Magic, so sometimes, so that's kind of...
Keep up the great work. I'm really a huge fan of your work. So, moving away from the art part, let's move to the release plan. First of all, the game will hopefully launch in Kickstarter at the end of the year. Each faction will initially receive enough miniatures to ensure that all players have a rich game experience. You will have everything you need to play, and depending on how successful the Kickstarter is, extra units are already being processed, are ready to be launched at the first possibility. And also, something else that I want to make clear to everyone watching us. The main prospect of the game is to release units regularly. Okay. If you come to our game, the game will not stagnate. You will get new miniatures every single month. And besides new miniatures, you will have support by thematic expansions, by new campaign systems, by new missions, by new lore. Everything will be expanding and growing, and you, the public, will be the one giving us feedback in order to ensure that things move to the position that you want. You will give us the inputs, and we will provide the result that you want as a collective community. So finally, yeah, that's a new trope. That's something that everyone in the team wanted, that the public, the players of the game, really have an impact in the world.
So more it's a living game. And
it's a living game.
We'll try to do it a living game.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the idea. With expansions in the future, for example, let me give you a very small spoiler. For example, encompassing the area of the north. So all the 5 factions will receive miniatures and lore and campaigns and missions on the north. So snow-themed stuff. Moving on after that, it will be something else. But the whole universe will expand and the people will have an immersive experience.
Okay. And finally, maybe goblins breaking off from the Empire.
Oh, do you know something?
Know something
nothing really, but someone dropped hints.
Are you sure? I think you know much already. So moving to my final part of my presentation is the game itself. The game is envisioned by Martin, so I don't to get in too much of a depth because Martin will provide a much better presentation of that. But the game will have so many formats. We envisioned a game that has never been envisioned in the past. So first of all, it will be the scale. You will be allowed to play the game in the skirmish scale with 5 to 7 miniatures per side with your friend in a game lasting around 30 minutes. So if you have a lunch break, let's go, bring your miniatures and play around. Then you will have the medium range, which is the old Chronopia. let's call it the regular size, around 30 to 40 miniatures per side, which will take 2 hours, give or take, having fun and conversation in the meantime. Finally, we will have the massive scale. In the massive scale, hundreds and hundreds of miniatures will fight one against the other. You will bring all your friends in the table and you will have a very epic experience. This is the size part of the game. Now let's move to the format of the game. This game will allow you to play player versus player, the classic one that we play every Saturday, before COVID at least. We met and we played with your friends one against another. Now it has other options to play solo, to play you against the game, to play Battle Royale, to play against to make a battle with an odd number of players. So if you have three friends meet in a house, and the third guy wants to watch, no, you do not need to watch. You can play in an odd number of players in the battle. So, but I think I went too much in the depth in the fields of my friend Martin. Let me give the floor back to him so he will explain better on the game mechanics, and afterwards I will be free to answer your questions.
Okay, good. Let's talk game mechanics, because Chad has already been asking, is it for people who are already old hands at miniature games, or is it for people who are new to playing miniature games?
It's actually for both. Many of the mechanics are similar to the old school, but the idea and the mentality of the game is new. Also, there is a bunch of new miniatures that look stunning, and I'm pretty sure that every one of you, when he witnesses the new sculpts that we have made, he will surely want to get his hands on that.
Okay.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about rules, Martin.
Okay. So, good afternoon, guten tag, dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry.
As you see, my name is Marcin Malinowski, also known as Martin Hood. You might know me on this name as well. First of all, I would like to thank to Questing Night Games and Alan Davis for preparing for us this beautiful game board. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry.
Don't hurt yourself.
No, for preparing for us this beautiful game board and painting some of the miniatures, which I previously shown. And I would like to thank to David Kacperak, our pro painter, for bringing us a very nice orc swordsman to the table, so I could show it to you today. Okay. First of all the people probably wondering what dice the system is using. We will be using normal D20 as it was in the previous editions. Mm-hmm. So percentage dice, one is 5%. And maybe I will show you. I cannot show you.
Oh no! Oh, by the way, we lost Elias.
I think he disappeared.
Oh yeah.
He will join soon. Don't worry.
Yeah. He's coming back.
So something happened. I wanted to show you the card with characteristic, but I cannot admit it. Anyway. Every model in our games got a basic characteristics. It's 11 characteristics, which describes how good each model is in what. So, for example, there is a move characteristics, tells us how many inches the model might move. There is a close combat characteristics that tell us how good the model is in hand-to-hand combat. Range skill characteristics, which of course shows how good the troop is if he's got a shooting weapon. Dexterity, that value measures hand-eye coordination, reflexes, and balance. There's agility. This is a negative value that opponent have to deduct from his close combat when he tries to hit us. So, for example, if there's a small goblin, he will get a more agility because it's really hard to hit him when he's running around us. Another, we will have a willpower. That model will use to cast magical powers and resisting it. So every model will get this characteristic. Again, is leadership. Leadership is basically how trained and disciplined the model is. Another characteristic is strength, determines how strong the model is. Wounds characteristics, so how many hits the model can take before we have to take him off from the board. Armor, that indicates how well protected the model is against damage. And the last characteristic is base, size of a base, which the model, like the trolls, is on the 50 millimeter basis, and the normal orc, that's the orc archer, will have a 30 millimeters base. And the base itself, it's the characteristic not only tell us on which base we should put the miniature, but tell us how big the miniature is. So that got impact when we try to shoot them.
Ah, okay.
Okay, and the basic, the game is divided on turns. So each turn got 4 phases. Initiative phase, activation phase, fight phase, and end phase. And when we get through all the phases, we go back to another turn and go through them again. So I will make a short demo how the initiative phase works. Every player roll a d20 die and then add numbers of his own activation. So activation is, it might be a warband, which counts as 1, or it might be an individual model like a troll over there. So let's say the right side of our demo, Orc Swordsman and Troll, we got 2 activations, and the left side got Orc Archers and Orc Swordsmen as well, just 2. So they are really equal. So whoever will roll less will get the initiative. So initiative went to the player on the left. And then we go into another phase, which is activation phase. And here, one player activates 1 unit, then another player activates 1 unit.
Okay.
And
so
it goes, forth and back till we activate all of our units.
Okay.
When we activate a unit, which is made from few different models, we have to activate 1 model at the time. And that model can do a few actions. Of course, it depends on what model is equipped with. If he's got only hand weapon, he cannot shoot. Yeah, he just can move and fight. If the model is equipped with a ranged weapon, he can move, shoot. He cannot double shoot. Anyway, everything will be listed what the model can do. If that will be a spellcaster, the spellcaster might cast the spells, and so on and so on. So let's do, for example, activate a swordsman, and they can do a basic movement of 5 inches movement value, or they can do advanced movement, which is movement value times 2, 10 inches. As you can see, it's enough to reach the model opposing side, but in the way we've got an obstacle, which is wall. And every obstacle the model travel to have to deduct 2 inches from their movement. So 10 minus 2 is 8 inches. We can move them closer, but not close enough to get involved in the fight. But this one, there's a gate between, so he can run. And then he can charge to get to another model. And to get into the fight, there are 2 ways. One way is a charge, which the model needs to travel in a straight line, minimum his movement value. Here was no problem, it was 10 inches in a straight line. And then I will present just for a second our prototype tokens. It's not the final version, some of them might be changed, but when the model charge, we put a charge token next to him. That will give a really big advantage later on in the fight phase to that model. So basically it is a tactical game that you have to outsmart your opponent for you to get a charge token, not the opponent. But you will get a pretty much advantage in the fight, even if at the beginning was not so. Okay, and we move the last models. They will run, but it's not enough movement for them to get. Again, he will run over the wall, so 2 inches less. And we get to another activation on the opposing side. In this side, let's move the troll over there. He just is far away, and let's move him closer. He can move 6 inches, so advanced move him closer to the 12 inches. Or we can move him and try to shoot with his net. It will be a ranged attack, but there's nothing in range really, so okay. Let's move him.
So he's going to run.
Yeah, he's just going to run. After we finish activation, it's really good to put activation token next to the warband, so later on we know that the warband, the unit, already done their activation in the turn. Of course, if we are playing small skirmish when there are 2 or 3 models, it's obviously known that the model has been moved, but when we are playing really massive battles, yes, that might felt a little bit confused. And then we get into the archers. Archers are left alone, but they can now try to aim and shoot the opposing models. They have to shoot the closest enemy models, but if the models are in fight, like in here, they can choose another model. So we got somewhere far away a bard. Let's measure the distance. Yeah, the distance is in the distance range of the weapon. And to hit him, we've got 2 obstacles in the way. Each obstacle just deduct his range skill by 2. It really doesn't matter how big is the obstacle. Of course, if the obstacle blocks line of sight and we cannot see the model, we cannot shoot. But if we see model, we got -2, -4. Orc archers range skill is 9, so -4 is 5. So we have to roll 5 or less on d20 to hit.
Okay.
Making a roll, and I rolled the 1, believe me or not.
I'm just going to believe you. I can't see it on camera. Is the one is one then a special hit, or is it just you made it because 5 is the number?
No. It's a special hit. Exactly. That's why I told it. Each weapon's got a critical range. It might be just one, well, like most weapons do, or it might be a bigger range. So, for example, if we have a two-handed weapon, it's really easier to do a critic hit than the normal weapon. What critic hit do? It's the model is not allowed to do any armor tests. So it's basically inflict the wound straight away. So that archer after the battle need a medal because one shot he killed our bard on the opposing side.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Kill the bard first. I get it.
Okay, and we do so on, so on. Of course, we can shoot to the close combat. So, but we have to do a few tests. For example, if we want to do it, because not every model is got their nerves to shoot into close combat because he can hit their own warriors, and even if they do. Later on, we have to, of course, roll to hit, and if we hit one of our models or the opposing model. But let's say that the rest of the orcs missed, so yeah, they don't deserve the medal today. Yeah, and that was all the activation phase done. So now we are getting into the fight phase, which really here will be resolved all the close combat. We don't have much. We just got one close combat here with two models. Probably in the next round, in the next turn, will be a lot more. But I didn't activate this. Anyway, we've got only one, and the fight is simultaneously. That's why we needed a extra phase
for movement.
No, extra phase for fight.
For fighting, okay.
For fight. Because in the previous editions, the fight was done in the same as activation. When you activate the unit, you might hit in the same time. Here, because that game is close combat, more or less, than the shooting. So the close combat, it's not happening like I'm getting to you, attack the hits, and you're standing doing nothing. So always they have a chance to hit back. Even if my model will kill opponent might strike back. Of course, there are a lot of situations that can outrun this rule, and that's a tactical way of seeing that game. But let's stick to this. So the model with the charge token, every model got a charge bonus stated on his card, unit card, or in a book. So he got more damage. We have to roll his close combat skill minus agility of the opponent. So his close combat is 8, agility is -1, but the opponent has got a shield, small shield, which adds another -1 to his agility, so -2. So the model hits only on 6s, but if he would have a helper, he would get another bonus to hit. So everyone would inflict. So the more models attacking the same model, just grows the chance to hit. But let's move back to the situation it was. I rolled
6s.
Let's say I rolled 6.
Okay, let's just imagine.
Yes, the model hit, and then each weapon's got their own characteristic of damage, how many attacks might be done. So if that would be a hero, he might hit 3 times with his sword, but that's just a regular orc, so had only 1 attack. And the damage is equal damage of the weapon plus strength of the wielder. So yes, it's 8 plus 1, 9 damage. And the orcs got armor value of 21. So to save that hit, he needs to roll 12 or less. Making the roll, it's 14. Now it's 14, yes.
So he didn't make
He didn't make it.
the saving throw. Oh.
He didn't save. He's dead. He's got only 1 wound. But still, and as usual, I forgot to add the damage. So he was saving on 10 or less, not 12, because he was +2.
Yeah, he did make it anyway. So.
But he can strike back, even if he dead.
With his dying breath.
Yes.
He's striking back.
And he miss. So now, after that, because there are no more models in the pair fight, really nothing happening. But if there would be, for example, another models, we would calculate the result of the fight, because the models might start panicking and running away,
Okay.
and so on and so on. So that we have to do a leadership test of the losing side minus wounds that has been taken. So we deal 1 wound, so leadership -1, they have to do test on 11s. But if that would be other side, or for example, this model would die as well. So 1-1 is tied, nothing happening, they staying. There are a few things that might add a score to this combat. Is, I will show, I don't know if I showed it here, a beautiful painted banner. So each warband might have a standard bearer. And if the standard bearer is in 6 inches to the fight, you do not have to be involved in the fight, and it's really not good to put him into the fight, because he's always got armor 1 less than the rest. But he gives +1 to the score of the result. So even if nothing happening, there was no wounds inflicted, that banner might tell us we won the fight.
Okay, and so there's no chance your people are going to run away.
Yes, there's a chance that people can run away. We're doing that run away. And that was the end of the fight phase. And we're going to the end phase. In the end phase, we're removing all the tokens, activation tokens from the board. We are checking the spells that might disappear, and so many effects as well. The end phase is the phase for AI, because as Ilias mentioned, we are preparing for single-player game, for odd numbers of player against environments, and that environment needs AI, which will be moving around the board. Okay, so we finished the turn. We're going again to the next turn, again initiative, and so on and so on. And now I have to tell about a few things that there will be as well, like command points. I'll show closer. The command points. On every level of the game, each player receive number of command points, which would help the models fighting. We can spend the points to increase their chance to hit. We can spend their points to increase the chance to cast a spell. We can spend the points to make a counter charge. So, for example, if we see a savage troll running on us, we can spend the point and make a counter charge. They will meet in the middle, and they will fight both with a charge token. As I said in the beginning, charge token is what we need, really. The bigger model or the cavalry model not only increase the damage, but they will have a special skills, stunning opponent, so the opponent will not be able to hit when he's stunned. What else I can say?
How many rounds do you usually play?
Okay. How many rounds? It's again, it depends on the scenario, which in total today 648 different scenarios to play. Yes, it's a combined.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is a lot. That's why Elias said every game will be different, and that's only for player versus player. So there are six basic scenarios, which are about from 6 to 7 rounds of play. And then each scenario's got different type of deployment zones. So if we multiply the basic scenario by the deployment zone, we've got a number. And then we've got the secret missions as well. If we multiply that, then we've got 648. There's a lot of different ways to play, and the modes of play. Player versus player. As you see, normal wargaming. We try to do balanced armies as possible. We've got a lot of beta testers who are working on the background even now and trying to find our problems in the stats. And before we release the game, hopefully it will be as balanced as it could be.
Can I ask which size of game this would be close to that we just played with 2 units on each side? Because you said it's like the standard game, a small game for 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, four levels. Ilias mentioned 3, but yeah, there's a small hero skirmish level, which is up to 5 models. There is a patrol fight, which I presented more or less. There were 2 units and the model, or then there's a normal battle size of a level, which is like a Chronopia previously, so about up to 40 miniatures per side. And then there's a massive army level, which allows us to play with our whole collection, really. So the more models we've got, the better. And the rules is set to the levels as well. So if we're playing with a small skirmish, we put more terrain on the board. Mm-hmm. So there will be, because small skirmish missions, it might happen in the city. So we've got 5 models that running more like an RPG than the normal battle. Then a patrol, we can play with a little bit less terrain, but for example, half-half. And with 20 miniatures or 15, 20 miniatures per side. Then we go to the normal battle size, 40 miniatures, and of course the size of a board going bigger. So if we're playing the bigger battles, we need a bigger table, and the biggest table will be the biggest version of a game will be more. I don't want to compare it to, but it's like Warhammer Fantasy Battles was once day. So you put one forest onto the table, and the rest are the army. So always the biggest battles were on the open fields and not in the middle of the cities, but it's of course up to the players if they will decide to put more terrain onto the battle. It's totally up to them.
Okay. I've got a few more questions for rules before we talk, because there are also questions about background. Going to come back to that, but looking at the units that you have there, you activate a unit is one unit. Do they have rules how close they need to stay together because they are rather
Yes, I should
far
mention
apart?
that before, yes. So it's called the command distance. When we activate the unit, we have to choose a leader if we don't have to. If we don't have a leader in the squad, for example, we've got 5 ordinary orc swordsmen, and that's fine. So we're choosing one model, and it's 4 inches from that model. So all the miniatures have to be 4 inches to the model who's playing the leader in this turn, because in the next turn it might be different model. If they are farther away, they have to just come back to the zone before that they will do something else. Then, when we add the leader to the unit, that distance is increasing by 1 inch. So if we've got a leader, the distance from 4 inches increased to 5 inches. And one more thing, if we've got the banner, that increased the command distance as well. So if you've got leader and the banner, the distance goes to up to 6 inches. So the unit might be spread across the battlefield.
Okay. There's also a question about how much bookkeeping is involved. We've seen that you work with tokens to make sure that you know which parts of the army have been activated, who has charged, things like that. But there was a question about the values for weapons. Is the weapon stat, is that part of the melee or close combat stat, or do they have different stats depending on what you actually put on the miniature or what weapons you have? Because you said we are rolling for the attack and the damage that the weapon does, things like that.
The equipment's got their own statistics line.
Okay.
And will have as well their own equipment card.
Okay, so you can put a card down next to your stats for the...
Yes, of course the card will be half size of a normal unit card. It won't be that big, so do not take a whole table by just the cards. And it's just a reminder of what weapon do. Because it's not like each weapon goes to just one model. For example, if you've got a sword, the exactly stats of sword going to the firstborns, to the dwarves, to the elves who are using just the sword. If we've got just a spear, the spear is exactly the same stats for all the races that will be using it. And of course the card might be different. They might be with the sword showing firstborn sword and the sword with elf sword, but basically the stats are the same. And the stats more or less telling us what type of a weapon it is. It might be cut weapon, it might be crushing weapon. That is used in advanced rules. So
okay.
I just skip it. Yeah, the game's got the advanced rules for the people who want to dive more into the rule set. And in the basic rules, just say, the sword is cut type weapon. Then we've got the range of that weapon, so that tells us if our miniature have to be base to base in the opponent model, or it might be half inch away, or up to 2 inches. There are no weapons that got range more than 2 inches, close combat weapons. Otherwise, it's just throwing weapons or bow shooting weapons. Then there's a number of attacks, which tell us how many dice we take in to make tests and how many hits we can do. The critic range I mentioned. So if we roll natural on our D20 dice, natural score by 1, 2, 3, depends on the weapon, we deal automatic damage. And how much damage it does. So to the close combat weapon, we add the strength of the model. So if that's really simple, if the orc will be using sword and hit, for example, swords got damage 8. And the orcs got strength 1, so it deals damage with 9 in total. But the trolls got, for example, strength 3, so it will do with the same weapon and more damage than the normal orc because it's bigger.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, good. I have a few questions about miniatures now, because we've seen you've held up some of the painted miniatures that you've used for the range. What material are they going to be, and how are you going to deliver them? Are they going to be in a blister, or are they already kind of cut out and you have the parts? What will it look like when I open a box with Chronopia miniatures?
Our intention is to deliver them in the boxes. Yes, and in the model will be made from resin.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be resin models delivered in the box. In the box as well, you will find a base for the model, like 30 millimeters, exactly the base what is said in the rules, and the cards for the unit, for the equipment that the unit is using. So that will be the box. And I have to mention that each unit got a specialist. Yeah, like in our demo there was a bard.
Yes.
Who's been killed by
an
the
orc bard.
But every unit, when we're buying a normal models, for example, for every 3 models we can put specialist. And by specialist, we meaning heavy weapons, standard bearer, bard. That's the basic ones, really, who most of the units got. Not every unit is different, but that's the basics. And then there might be a different specialist that bringing some special rules exactly only aimed for that unit. Okay. And then there will be sold separately. So when we will be buying a box of orc infantry, we will have just orc infantry, and then we have to buy a box of specialists to add them. Okay. That's the plan at the minute. Of course, I'm not saying it's a final plan, so it might change. We still got a few months to go to for the Kickstarter and later on, yes. But at the minute, it looks like that.
Okay. Then let's talk a little bit about lore again, because there were questions about other factions from people who are fans of Chronopia and of the world. We was like, what about Stygians? What about swamp goblins? What about these? What about that? So you have all of them in mind, although they're not there with the first starting set, right?
Yes. First of all, I want to make something clear. The world of Chronopia is absolutely huge, and the world is constantly evolving. So yes, the swamp goblins live in the south of the map. Yes, the Stygians are actually still slumbering. They have not waken up yet. Maybe they will in the future. It's a living world, and our intention is first to establish the main tropes, the main factions, before we start expanding. But rest assured that all the new factions, and maybe some new ones, will start making their appearance in the game.
Okay, those will come about at some time. There's also a little bit about a question about, well, it's formulated as why is it better than other war games? Or maybe rather talk about what is different or what makes it special. Because
I can answer
it plays rather... You know, if you've played a few war games, you can kind of say, that's how it works. I know these kind of stats. So I'd say it's a usual way to work a skirmish game. What sets it apart from other similar games?
Yes, and what sets us apart is a type of games we play. So we can, first of all, there's a lot of different scenarios for player versus player, which I think, not every war game can give us that exactly amount of types of games to play. Another thing is types of a game. So single player. If you don't have anybody to play with, you can play solo. So you can put your own miniatures into the board and then play against AI, and that will be like a scenario driven as well. So you can more like an RPG, I would say, and in the style of Diablo. So you've got one hero who's walking and killing the hordes of the models. Again, players versus environment that allows odd number of players to play the game. And to be honest, I haven't seen any war game that allows that. Of course, you can play like 2 generals versus 2 generals, or 2 people versus 1, which is really not a good
not
way
fair.
to play. Yeah, not fair. But yeah, if you've got that, you can play. But here, for example, 5 people come to play. Yes, everybody put their own hero and play against environments like hordes of goblins attacking, or hordes of undead or whatever. Or they can play another type of a game, which is Battle Royale. Mm-hmm. Battle Royale on the board, we will put the tokens with equipment, with command points to collect. And you just drop your miniature, everyone dropping in different places, and try to gather the stuff over the game and then kill another players. Of course, it might be on the frag game. So in the battle royale, if the player dies, just go out of the game. But here we might set, for example, 10 turns, and if you die, you just regenerate, and the person who killed you got 1 point. And we play 10 turns. Whoever got the biggest amount of points is the winner. So, with the same miniatures, you can play as many as different types of the game as possible, really, and you can play solo. Which, new war games try to put it now, and we are. I think we will be better than them.
Okay.
Just in fact, I wanted to add a couple of more factors in the game. First of all, I really urge everyone to go check the miniatures in the gallery. Some of them have already been uploaded. The miniatures are stunning. Secondly, it's the lore. The lore, first of all, is one of the richest ones around. I really also urge the people just to take a glimpse of the old lore and imagine with the contemporary support and the means of the internet that were not available in the 90s, how much more depth and immersion you will be able to experience. And also there is the factor that the world will change by the feedback of the community. We are strongly committed to listening to the community, to having their feedback and allowing us to form the world at the will of their own.
Okay.
I want to add a few things. So if there are more questions that we won't have time to answer, so I invite people to our Discord channel. There's a Chronopia Discord channel in Uchberg Verlag server. There should be a link somewhere around in the chat. So you can go over there, ask the questions. I will be answering as soon as possible. Or Ilias, if it will be lore equivalent. And if the people want to be on top of news or the new miniatures that will be presented before the Kickstarter, please sign to our newsletter, and the link should be as well somewhere in the chat.
Okay. I have one more question about the solo mode, because I find it hard to imagine to use the same statistics and the same rules for playing one character against many, because as you explained, the rules, if you attack and there are more other miniatures that are in base contact, you get more and more and more bonus. So how does that work?
Yeah, there will be a slightly changes to the normal rules about that. Like, for example, we will put a normal orc swordman, and in the base game he's got 1/1. But when we play solo, he will get a 6/1 from the start. Okay. And then he can collect better weapons. He can heal in the game. There will be like a treasure tokens. He can go and collect, not only killing hordes of enemies, but yes, our hero will be pumped up with characteristic.
Okay, it's not just going to be a normal orc hero.
No.
Okay, then the last few questions. When you start with the first sets for the 5 different factions that you've already talked about, how many different miniatures are we going to see for the faction? So we've seen now for the Empire, we've seen orc swordsmen, we've seen orc archers, and we've seen a single troll. So how many different ones, apart from that, are there going to be for each faction?
The absolute minimum that we plan is to have 5 different units per faction at the launch. But depending on the success of the Kickstarter, we have another 5 per faction at minimum. Of course, if the Kickstarter is very, very successful, more expansions will be present right from the onset.
Okay. And you talked about people should take a look at the miniatures, and we've talked with Patrick from Urwerk Verlag, who are going to publish the game, and he's been showing us renders of new miniatures kind of like every week, so you've already seen them, and talk a little bit about the design idea behind it, because for instance the Empire they are influenced by, I'd say, the Ottoman Empire or by the Persian Empire. So
Yes.
it's not what you first would think about when you think orcs and trolls, right?
Yes, exactly. The tropes and the whole aesthetic is taken for the Black Blood Empire from Middle Age Ottoman Empire, the Sassanid Empire, these kind of things. Mm-hmm. The firstborn are classic Western medieval knights. The elves are kind of their own. They are spiky. They have lots of armor. The dwarves are more like Tolkienian dwarves, but the dwarves in particular have more animistic tropes, more animistic aesthetic. Each of the different clan will have a different aesthetic. For example, we will have the wolf clan. The wolf clan will be clad in wolf pelts, in wolf helmets, whilst the horned ones will have hooves and will look like rams and have different aesthetic. The devout are evil, bulky guys that summon the forces of the Dark One in our own world. So are more magical, they will have more monsters, they are more fanatical and mystical.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in apart from the firstborn who are like very tropey, who are like, here is a fantasy knight, many of the other ones just have a twist or a different way to look at what you'd expect. So
exactly. And I want to connect what you said to the previous question about what's the new trope that Chronopia brings. Chronopia is a fantasy setting, but tries to move away from the classic standards. There is a new aesthetic. There is a taste for everyone. If whatever you have in mind, with whichever part of your personality you want to connect with, you will find your trope in this lore, in this world.
Okay. Personally, I like Sassanid orc bards. that is a very interesting look.
Sounds. I would love to hear how he sounds, yeah.
I guess it looked a little bit like an alud, sounds like...
Yes.
I'd listen to that. Okay. Good. So, the Kickstarter is going to come late this year, roughly.
By the end of the year, yes.
At the end of the year. And since it's going to be in Urvik, is it going to be in Kickstarter, or is it going to use the platform that Urwerk usually is on, Game on Tabletop? Do you know where you go?
Hard to say.
Okay.
We didn't establish that yet, exactly on which platform it will be. I think it might be on the Kickstarter because it's more set to the worldwide than only to Germany. And I have to mention we will aiming, we should see as well how good Kickstarter will go, to release it in different languages. So it will be basic in English, it will be translated to German, of course, it will be translated to Polish, hopefully to Greek as well, and Italian, all the basic, maybe Spanish. So when we release, every player might felt, straight away into the game, I do not have to translate it, I can read it in my own language.
It's really helpful if you have an international team working on it, and then some of the designers can look over the translations. Very good. I guess we're at the end of our slot by now, and I don't think we have any more questions from the chat, so it's time to say thank you for the talk and for the presentation. And
thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, that's my job, talking to you and looking at games. And Patrick from Urvik Verlag has posted the links where people can find you. Oh, there's a question about there being a Russian version in chat. So maybe we've got a Russian player in chat. That's probably a maybe.
Yeah, at the minute it's maybe, yeah. If we gather Russian players who are willingly to help to translate, let us know and we will think about it.
Okay, good. And people who want to take a look at the miniatures, Patrick already put the link in there. So they can talk to you at the Discord, and if they want to stay up to date, they can join up and pester Patrick about news, and we'll find out when and how and in which way and how many miniatures and everything else this is going to happen later this year.
Exactly.
I hope you have a great weekend, guys, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much, and stay safe, everyone out there.
Yes. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Good. We are going to stay talking in English because our next guest is John.